All right, let's dive into the amazing microscopic machinery that powers your body's instant energy system. We're going to uncover how your body turns stored sugar into that incredible burst of speed right when you need it most. You know that feeling, right? That sudden, almost shocking surge of power when you need to sprint or jump or lift something heavy. It feels like it comes out of nowhere, but behind the scenes, there's a truly fascinating biological chain reaction kicking into high gear. So, where does that explosive energy really come from? Well, the secret is a special fuel reserve called glycogen. This isn't just the sugar floating around in your blood. Oh no. Think of glycogen as a super dense energy bar, packed and ready to go at a moment's notice. Now, the real magic of glycogen is its shape. It's not just a long, boring chain of glucose. It's this dense, tree-like thing with tons and tons of branches. And this design is absolutely brilliant because it gives enzymes thousands of places to start snipping off glucose all at the same time. This creates a massive, rapid flood of fuel exactly when you need it. But here's the thing, not all glycogen is created equal. Your body has two main storage lockers, and they have very different jobs. Your liver, well, it's the generous one. It's like the community fuel bank, sharing its glucose with your whole body to keep your blood sugar stable for your brain and everything else. Your muscles, though? They're a little more selfish. They keep their own private stash of glycogen, and it's reserved exclusively for their own powerful movements. Okay, so we have this giant, branched fuel source. The question is, how do we break it apart super fast without wasting the very energy we're trying to make? Turns out, the body has a really elegant solution. You see, when you digest the carbs you eat, your body uses water to break them down. That process is called hydrolysis. But inside the cell, where the glycogen is already waiting, it has a much cleverer trick up its sleeve, using a phosphate group in a process called phosphorylation. And this is the key. Because this whole process is happening inside the cell, it doesn't have to worry about moving the sugar across any barriers. It's already right where it needs to be. And that little fact opens up a huge opportunity for the cell to use a more efficient tool. So what this really means is that phosphorylation releases a version of glucose that's already, well, it's pre-activated. You can think of it as being spring-loaded for action. This glucose 1-phosphate is already a step ahead in the whole energy production game. And here is the brilliant payoff. A regular glucose molecule needs to spend 1 ATP just to get into the game. But by using phosphorylation, the cell completely bypasses that first step. It saves 1 ATP for every single glucose molecule it breaks off the chain. I mean, that's a huge efficiency gain when you need energy like yesterday. Okay, so the main enzyme is doing a great job trimming the long branches of our glycogen tree, but it has one little problem. It can't get too close to the forks in the road. It literally gets stuck. So how does a cell get around this roadblock? It calls in a specialist, an enzyme that's basically a molecular Swiss Army knife. First, it uses one tool to snip a little 3-glucose piece off the branch and moves it over to a longer chain. Then, it switches tools and uses water to cut off that single leftover glucose at the branch point. This clears the way for the main enzyme to get back to work. Just brilliant. Now, a system this powerful needs to be tightly controlled. You don't want to burn through your emergency fuel while you're just relaxing on the couch, right? This is where hormones come in. They are the master switches for this whole energy release process. Just picture it. You see your bus pulling away from the stop. Instantly, your body gets flooded with a signal that screams, "Go, now!" This is that classic fight-or-flight response, and it's all kicked off by a super powerful hormone. So this whole control system really has 3 key players. As you can see, adrenaline, which gets released when you're stressed or excited, is the big go signal to break down glycogen. Then there's insulin. That comes out after a meal when your blood sugar is high, and it says, okay, time to store this energy for later. And finally, glucagon steps in to tell the liver to break down glycogen when your blood sugar gets too low. So the hormones have flipped the switch, and our cells are now swimming in activated glucose. The next step is to actually convert that fuel into the cell's universal energy currency, ATP. And we do that with one of the most ancient and vital processes in all of life. That process is called glycolysis, and it is ancient. I mean, almost every single living thing on this planet, from the tiniest bacteria to the biggest blue whales, uses it. It's essentially a 10-step chemical assembly line that happens in two main phases. You know that old saying, you have to spend money to make money? Well, it's true for cells too. The very first part of glycolysis is the investment phase. The cell has to put a little bit of energy in to get the whole thing started. Specifically, it spends 2 molecules of its precious ATP. It uses that energy to stick a couple of phosphate groups onto the glucose, which makes the molecule unstable and ready to be cracked in half. Okay, the investment is made. Now for the good part, the energy payoff phase. Once that glucose molecule is split into 2 smaller pieces, the cell starts to cash in, and believe me, it gets back more than it put in. As those 2 3-carbon molecules get processed down the assembly line, the chemical reactions generate a grand total of 4 ATP molecules. That's 2 from each piece. So let's do the quick math. We spent 2 ATP and we got 4 back. That's a net profit of 2 ATP for every single molecule of glucose. Now that might not sound like a huge return, but it's incredibly fast. And here's the real kicker. It doesn't require any oxygen, which makes it absolutely perfect for those short, intense bursts of energy. Glycolysis has given us our quick but crucial profit of ATP, and now we're left with 2 molecules of a substance that's sitting at a major fork in our metabolic highway. That substance is called pyruvate. And what happens to it next all depends on one simple thing. Is there oxygen available? During that sprint for the bus, when your muscles are screaming for energy and there's just not enough oxygen to go around, pyruvate gets converted into lactate. This is a crucial step that actually allows glycolysis to keep cranking out that fast energy. And this brings us to a really fascinating final thought. A net gain of 2 ATP is great for a short sprint, but for a cell, it's basically pocket change. It's just the down payment on the body's massive energy budget. So it really makes you wonder, if this super fast process only gives us a tiny return, where does the real energy, the big-time powerhouse of the cell, actually come from? Well, that's a story for another explainer.